If you thought getting rejected by the opposite sex was mainly a problem for men, think again.
I mean, it's cool if I'm just not doing it for you.
Don't do that.
What? I mean, that's what it is. Just trying to be realistic.
Women get rejected, sometimes brutally, all the time. It's just not nearly as visible. It's silent, and often they don't know it's even happening. Men do practice the dark art of rejecting women covertly. There is a kind of zero-sum game with relationships. If men and women want to find the love of their life just as much as each other, mathematically that means they will face about the same amount of rejection over time. Basically, for every single man who hasn't found the one, there is a single woman in the same boat. Men used to be rejected at higher rates because of the willingness of women to sit on the sidelines.
Will you marry me?
Miss Drew is in her mid-40s, a spinster, of course, a virgin, and proud of it.
But that's changed with men going their own way. Now, significant percentages of both men and women are effectively avoiding rejection by sitting out. Traditionally, the way women experienced rejection was by simply being overlooked. Women could be left on the shelf, so to speak, if no man asked them out. This was the most fundamental form of rejection, not being chosen. And while it didn't come with a direct refusal, the outcome was the same. It put females in a race to be selected and get married early. I don't know much about this kind of rejection personally, but it must be painful. Women often put a huge amount of effort into making themselves attractive. Clothing, makeup, styling, even surgery in some cases. So when no man shows interest, it has to hurt. It's like when sports captains are picking teams in high school and your name isn't getting called. You feel helpless and increasingly worried. This kind of rejection has diminished due to technology and the rise of casual sex. Online attention and one-night stands can give the impression that a woman is still wanted, even when no one is choosing her for anything real. And with men now less likely to approach women in person after Me Too, being ignored is par for the course. I will say that I feel sorry for physically unattractive women. They're destined for this and other forms of rejection because women are judged so much on looks and are all competing with one another in this domain. The die was cast from the moment they were born. Men always have a greater chance to improve themselves through things like status and charm. I won't go into detail about the ways men get rejected because they're well known, but the key thing to point out is that they're often in your face. When a woman knocks back a guy's advances, it can be anything from a polite no to a dirty look, abuse, or even a complaint to authorities. And the threshold for all this is very low. If she isn't strongly attracted to you, and women find relatively few men attractive, you're easily in line for some form of blunt rejection. However, as I've claimed, women face just as much rejection. It's just different and more subtle, and it happens despite women appearing to be the ones making the choices, saying yes or no. Women are naturally choosy because sex without commitment is a risk for them, or at least it should be, even with the pill. Women evolved to avoid getting pregnant and being abandoned. That choosiness leads to a common pattern. Women overrate their attractiveness and underrate male relationship skills. Any man with options quickly learns that he can reject a woman without technically rejecting her. If he doesn't bring his A game, she might lose interest or move on. Casual sex may still be on the table. So why would a man reject a woman outright? Generally, there's no need. He can just pretend to be oblivious, or in a dating situation, a jerk or stupid or both. What it comes down to is that women are being rejected when they want a relationship, to be a true girlfriend or a wife, and can't make it happen despite trying. They've been overlooked in the traditional sense, even if it feels like they're still actively searching and success could be around the next corner. There are plenty of good men around, but the specific men these women want are just not interested in them. I don't agree when I hear women complaining that the men they date are immature, unwilling to settle down, only interested in one thing or lacking conversation skills, 9 times out of 10 the real issue is that he just wasn't especially attracted to her. If he was, he would have tried harder. He let her reject him, or at least made little effort to prevent it. Putting in work to win a woman over is hard when, in the back of your mind, you have doubts about her. Women also make the mistake of confusing sex with being valued. They might only sleep with men they find attractive, but men don't think the same way. Men will bed even the ugly ones. When a woman puts out and he doesn't want her as a girlfriend, that is rejection. The fact that he slept with her means very little. The fact that he didn't pursue her speaks volumes. All you can really conclude is that she didn't qualify as relationship material in his eyes. There is a myth that the top men in the dating market just use women for sex, and that's why women using dating apps end up having a string of brief encounters. I don't believe this. I think nearly all men will try for something more serious when they meet a woman they're truly taken with. Sex becomes the fallback option for those who don't meet their standard. These men aren't unattainable, they're just out of reach for most. So women who do the sex without commitment thing with the so-called chads of this world are actually being rejected. They're batting out of their league but kid themselves that he wasn't the type of guy who would settle down. These days, women who are being effectively rejected can become confused more than they recognise what is actually happening. They think the poor behaviour they've experienced in relationships was because men are no good. They believe the best, most exciting sexual encounters foreshadow what is possible. Actually, this is all false. Bad behaviour from a man is a sign that he's not into her. Would he be pushing for sex so hard or messing her around if he was keen? Of course not. He saves his normal relationship behaviour for women who have a shot with him. And does she think that guy who gave her the tingles sets a standard for her? Absolutely not. She met a guy above her level at his peak. No man she's ever likely to marry can live up to that. Women need a reality check, but there's no one around to provide it. Parents build up their daughter's self-esteem to the point where she can become dateless and an insufferable partner. She can't go looking to friends for the truth either. Females, even so-called friends, secretly sabotage each other by encouraging delusion, not honesty. They tell each other to raise their standards, that the right guy will come, that they're glowing, beautiful, and just too much woman for the men around them. But here's the truth. They're not helping. They're making it worse. Telling a woman she's a 10 when men don't treat her that way doesn't boost confidence. It sends her down the wrong path. And the result is years wasted chasing fantasies and blaming men for the disappointment that follows. The real horror is that many women don't realise they were being rejected while they were young, not until it's too late.
You threw up at 3 o'clock in the morning and didn't come home the other night because you were so wasted. So, how can you be mad at me because we both drink?
They thought they were just waiting for the right one. They thought they had time, but in reality, the men they wanted weren't choosing them. And as the years went on, their standards stayed high while their value to men declined. Now they face a brutal truth. Not only must their standards come down to meet reality, they have to come down further because their value is declining and the pool of available suitors is shrinking fast. Many of the decent men are already taken. The ones who are left are pickier, cautious, or disinterested. Delaying only made things worse. This is the core of it. Most older women aren't single because there's something wrong with men. They're single because their standards stayed too high while their value dropped. The gap widened year by year until nothing realistic was left to aim for. And here's the biological punchline. A woman who is childless at 30 has less than a 50% chance of ever having a child. The odds are against her and they get worse every year. That window doesn't wait for her to find herself. It closes while she's distracted by men who were never serious. This is where things get dangerous. Not only have they been rejected, they've aged through it without adjusting. What they needed was a sharp adjustment, a moment of clarity, a bit of humility, some gratitude for the men who actually showed interest in them. That's the lifeline. If they can wake up and stop chasing men who don't want them, they might still have a chance. If not, they'll end up alone, disappointed, and convinced that men are the problem, when the truth is they spent too long ignoring the men who were genuinely interested and willing to commit.